honestly, I don't think that women should vote.
Oh boy.
And the only reason it's controversial is because everybody's been raised in an environment where women can vote.
So why shouldn't women be able to vote?
Well, it's on its face, whenever it was brought up before it was actually, codified in the 19th Amendment, every population of women, the general population, whenever they were asked if they wanted to be able to vote, they said no. Overwhelmingly, 90+%.
When was this though? Like how long ago?
In the early 20th century.
So women didn't want to vote.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, they did
the
not.
Suffrage movement was a pretty big thing.
There was a small group of women, basically ugly,
why do we see
ugly
such
and,
high voter
ugly and
turnout
ignored
among women?
who wanted to be treated like attractive women. They didn't want.
Do you know female turnout for voting is much higher than men?
Of course it is. They're ding dongs.
So a whole half of the, I mean, it's not surprising. I mean, I'm not surprised. We have a flat earther here.
Yeah.
So women should not be able to vote, but you think they shouldn't be barred from holding office.
Well,
Yeah.
okay.
That seems like contradicting.
Flat
a little
earther
bit,
on
right?
this side of the table. Preference for being used as a political tool as opposed to being a moral authority on that side of the table.
I've never espoused that. Well,
Well,
that's
you want
bullshit.
women to be able to
you
vote,
have
right?
espoused being a flat earther. I'm not pulling an insult out of the air. I'm using your own words against you.
All I did was present your position. If you want women to vote, that opens them up to political manipulation. If they don't vote and they undertake their role as mothers and domestic, homekeepers, they are moral authorities. And that's why women in general didn't want the vote.
No.
You can look that up. It's
Being
plain as day.
Being able to vote is far better than being open to being exposed to political manipulation.
Welcome back, everyone. It's
Good to be here.
Yeah, dude. It's been a while. It's
been a long time.
Mr. Chad, dude.
Good to see you again, Phil.
Yeah.
You too.
For those of you who don't remember Chad Fuller, he was one of the first guests I actually ever had on this podcast. The first time he ever met my buddy Phil over here, he debated him about flat earth. It was a great time. Both his brothers on. Phil, I think you took the L on that one.
He was also ganged up on. So
He was.
okay.
It was 3-1, just like it was 3-1 in Trump versus Kamala's debate. There was two moderators. Two moderators. No, but thank you guys for coming here today. So let's just get right into it. So this is going to be a reenactment of round 2 of the presidential debate. Phil is going to be representing Donald Trump and the Republicans, while Chad is going to be representing Kamala Harris and all the Democrats. So boys, let's just get into it right away. So let's begin with what a majority of voters say is the number one issue in this country, and that's the economy. Economy. I mean, shit is pretty expensive. I had McDonald's breakfast a couple of weeks ago. It was over $30
for like one McDonald's breakfast. There's no way.
I got 2 sausage, egg, and biscuits with cheese, only 1 hash brown, and then my fiance, she just got like a regular meal. So 2 meals and an extra sandwich.
Okay.
Over $30 though. That's
That's not one McDonald's breakfast though. That's like 3.
But no, it's 1. It's 1. Come on, let's be real.
You said 2 sandwiches and a whole breakfast?
Yeah, 2 sandwiches and a hash brown.
Yeah. $30 is a lot, but it's not one breakfast.
But that's a problem because 15, 20 years ago, that'd probably be like $20. Dollar menu doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Phil, I want to start with you here. That's all right.
Oh, no.
About economy.
Yeah, let's
So it's good. So going into it with the way the economy is nowadays and how expensive everything is, do you think Americans are better off today than they were 4 years ago? And why is that?
Not by any measure.
Chad, how do you feel about that?
Better off now than we were 4 years ago? Well,
yeah, in terms of like economy, money, how people are doing, how are they living?
Well, 4 years ago, I lost my job along with millions of other people. We had the pandemic. I mean,
me as well.
I think that's kind of a silly question.
I think we all did.
If you're talking about the pandemic, I mean, that was horrible for everyone.
Yep.
And that should have been handled a lot differently from the top. And so I think it's impossible to say that you're better off now than you were exactly 4 years ago. If you want to take the pandemic out of it, then it's a harder question. But certainly I'm much better off now than I was at this time of the year in 2020. Because I had lost my job. We were all sitting around doing nothing. Where there's lockdowns. We, couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything. That was bad time. Bad time.
Well, especially for our industry too, right? Being in the service industry, how bad it was.
Hospitality just was completely devastated by all of the panic to try and prevent everybody from getting sick. The big problem is that in a lot of places, the policies that were put into place in an attempt to deal with it, one, didn't actually deal with it at all, and two, exposed a lot of people who were in the vulnerable groups to being infected. I mean, it was almost like it was done on purpose. But that whole episode, I think the better question to ask, because of that particular, circumstance with, an external, emergency condition being imposed on everyone, basically, is that maybe
a better question is are you better off than you were 5 years ago?
Yeah,
before the pandemic.
Yeah, are the policy changes that were undertaken from the change of administration, were they actually beneficial? And I don't understand in any way how any of it was beneficial.
Well, speaking of hospitality industry, we all live in Minnesota for people who don't know watching. So, are you a fan of your boy, Timmy Walls here? Because he was the one who really fucked over the service industry the most in our state specifically.
Well, no, Donald Trump fucked over all the service, every single industry by not leading when the pandemic was really ramping up, saying it's all going to go away. It's going to be, it's just like the flu. It's not a big deal. If we would have had some kind of leadership from the top that would have prevented the curve from getting bad. And then you have a free for all with all the states and all the governors trying to figure out how to stop the spread, trying to stop the hospitals from getting overrun with sick people.
Yep.
Then things would have been a lot different. So, I mean, if you want to assign blame for the pandemic, there's nowhere else to look than Trump, that administration. That was horrible. That was handled really badly. Yeah. And I don't know enough about Waltz. I try to stay out of politics a lot now. But I can't really speak to much about Waltz.
But he was the one who decided to open and close restaurants here in Minnesota twice.
Yeah. I think it was 16 states on that day, all shut down. I remember that day. I was sitting at Old Chicago when we watched the news pop up on the TV screen, and it was TJ's last day. It was TJ's. He had already found a new job and he was leaving. So he kind of gets the win of saying, "Oh, Old Chicago couldn't last one day without me."
Yep,
that's kind of a funny side note.
That's funny. Well, in response to it being Trump's fault and not Walls is when it comes to service industry destruction.
The only criticism that I have of Trump in as far as his leadership while all of that was taking place was basically what he always ends up succumbing to is trying to. He wants to look as good as he possibly can in whatever the situation is. So,
isn't that everyone?
No, I mean, no. There are
Trump
actually
is special.
There are some principled people out there who will actually just tell you what they believe and why, instead of trying to craft a narrative around an event in order to look good. And the whole Project Warp Speed, where you develop a vaccine in 6 months. Which is just something that's just not practiced. It's not a thing. Mm-hmm. Vaccines are never generated in that kind of time frame.
It's very, very difficult to do. Yeah.
And then, so basically, my criticism is basically giving the bureaucratic government authorities the capacity to use a weapon against everybody. That's really it for me. I feel like the immediate steps that he took, basically cutting off the incoming international travel in order to create a time period buffer in order to try and get things organized so that the response could actually be worth something. I don't understand what was wrong with that. I think that was probably the best first step. And then he never really took a position on at the beginning about all of the lockdowns and stuff. He wanted to leave that to the governors, right? And all of the poor responses that came out of the lockdowns and the vaccine requirements at work and all of this stuff, that all came from the governors and the companies. He didn't encourage any of that.
So you're in support of him leaving it up to the state. And Chad, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you think Trump should have taken more control of that. Be like, you know what? I'm the president. You guys are all going to fucking lockdown. So until we get this thing under control.
It's not about, the president saying we're going into lockdown, but it is about the president. We talk about like one of the most important things that, the federal government does is national defense, right? So when you're having, a global pandemic, this is a very good example of what you would, classify as this is a national emergency. It's a global emergency. So that's where certainly the president should say, everyone is going to do their own things in some like respects in regards. But here's, I'm the leader of the country right now. This is a major moment in world history. And here's how I'm going to, lead us in the right way. We should have had, not shut down air travel, but a lot of other countries did a lot better than us because they were ready for this. And so one of the examples is funnel all of the international travel through a couple of very, very busy airports. So like, we're only going to have international travel go through O'Hare and LaGuardia and wherever, so those three places. Then you can have a whole bunch of health officials all swarming those places and testing people as they're coming off planes and whatnot, doing contact tracing. You guys remember contact tracing being talked about a lot early in the pandemic?
Yeah.
And then it just went out the window because it spread too fast, too quickly.
Useless.
It was not useless in other countries that slowed the spread more quickly than we did. We just kind of let it in and let it run rampant.
The truth of the matter is that entire event was completely overblown. The data that was collected on the front end made it very apparent early on who the vulnerable people were. They were all people with the comorbidities, the being overweight, the diabetes, pre-existing heart and lung problems, the very elderly with the weaker immune system, all the immunocompromised people. They were the ones that needed to take extra measures in order to avoid the catastrophic results from catching whatever this is.
So let's bring us back. I don't want to just get too far off of COVID. I know like what we talked about, like how Americans were better off 4 years ago. We had to relate to it, but let's try like weave it back into, okay, COVID sucks for everyone, especially us all in the hospitality industry. Prices are higher than ever and companies are making like record-breaking profits. Like, Chad, what do you think Kamala and the Democrats could do to make just the middle class happier, make everything more affordable again?
Well, I don't know. I haven't followed politics that closely, and I'm not a Kamala expert by any means. I've read a couple things where she wants to, make housing more affordable. Housing is very expensive. I bought a house last year. Yeah. And God, when you look at your payments and how much of it just goes just to interest is insane.
Well, not only that, dude, just looking at the houses. So we're shopping for one right now. Yeah. You have to spend like almost $500,000 just to get something decent. Dude, you should look at the shitholes they're selling for like $300,000 to $400,000.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep.
It's bad.
Mm-hmm. So housing needs to get under control. I mean, when you're talking about the middle class, it's people like us. I think the middle class.
I'm not middle class.
Are you upper class?
I'm poor.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I don't have that much money in my.
But you got some money saved up, though.
I have a little bit of savings.
You had some money saved up.
My income per year.
Put it this way: people like us should be the middle class. Right. We should be middle class, but we're kind of like working poor, right?
Right. Pretty much.
The middle class has been like wiped out, and I think this is something that we're probably going to agree on. Maybe not. Is that the ultra rich are just raking in all of the money, and the big corporations are raking in all of the money, and little guys like us are stuck paying for $30 to feed your family at McDonald's. That should be a really affordable trip. Let alone go to Perkins, you're probably going to spend $60,
right?
So bringing down housing costs, bringing down grocery costs. I don't.
Groceries are insane too.
Price gouging, where it's like, well, we're just going to raise prices because we can. The demand is there.
Yeah.
We're going to raise prices.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't grocery stores, like, they're only allowed to charge like a percentage above what they pay for it?
No.
No, you can.
You're not? Okay.
Capitalism, baby. You can sell it for whatever you want.
Yeah. But that requires, and that's the big problem. There's the zeroing in on any particular one thing in this environment. It's useless.
Do you think the food groceries would be the one thing that might be a smart idea for them to be like, hey, you guys can't make more than 10% profit? Just throw a random number out there.
Wages.
What? Well, see, and that's another thing. Wages are a price for labor. Okay, labor is a good just like anything else. And it's the same thing with money. Real money is a good just like anything else, right? It can't be summoned into existence out of nowhere, just like labor. You can't just squeeze a rock and get labor out of it. That's not a thing, right? So basically it doesn't matter which bullet point on the list we go over. There really isn't there isn't anything that can be done by political means to lower the cost of anything. The cost of a thing is what is surrendered by using the inputs available to produce product A. Well, time is always a cost because every process takes time.
My time as a worker is sacrificed to produce acorns, peanuts.
Yeah.
You're a peanut farmer, and I'm your employee.
Yeah. But all of these problems, essentially every single problem that can be pointed to about the imbalance between people at the top and the amount of wealth they accumulate, and everybody at the bottom and the prices that they struggle to pay, it all is born out of a severe misunderstanding of, one, what money is, and two, what the difference between price and cost are. And since none of those are actually nailed down with any kind of logical sense in this political arena of what I'm going to do to make it better, for me, the way I'm looking at this selection is basically, if you go with Kamala, you basically it's just a stamp on the status quo that has operated for decades to produce the situation we're in. And if you go with Trump, you might get a couple of interventions that actually allow the beast to stumble along without making any of the shit look even worse over time. So it's basically, are we gonna select a continuation of the crash, or are we going to try to level out and delay it? Because it doesn't even matter if we keep
it's coming eventually.
If we keep following these same philosophies of the serving the collective good through government spending and infinite deficit spending to infinity, none of it is ever actually going to be corrected. Let me ask. I want to ask you: do you think that right now, this idea of lowering interest rates to prompt growth, do you think that's a good idea?
I don't know enough about interest rates and how. I mean, I know that you bring interest rates up to help curb inflation, which has been working to a degree, but we still have too much. We're
I appreciate
6.4 right now or something.
I appreciate that answer.
Well, if I don't know, I'll say I don't know. I'm
and that's perfect.
Make up some bullshit.
That's perfect. The problem is that these people have it doesn't matter which side you're on, because they both say the same stupid things. And Trump is all about this, dial down the interest rates. Well,
then inflation's going to get worse.
That's exactly what blew the world up back in 2008, back in 99, back in the late 80s, early 70s, all throughout the whole civil rights deal, going back to the New Deal in the 30s. The stock market build up an explosion in the 20s. It's just a continuous sequence ever since the beginning of the true beast being the combination of the income tax, which gets people to frickin' go at each other's throats over who's paying tax, and the Federal Reserve, which gave them the capacity to spend to infinity and basically cover up the damage they're doing by through propaganda campaigns to the wider population. Well, it's their fault. It's like that. No.
I don't want to cut you out there for a second. Just read going for a while. Chaz, is there anything you want to respond to or had turning in your head before you lose it?
No.
Fair.
We can move on.
And you know what? No. I mean, I feel like we can be very much on the same page on this stuff because these are historical realities that have been glossed over.
Yeah, we might not disagree as much as we have in the past today.
Yeah, it sounds like Chad's had a little bit of change of heart. I think a lot of Americans have. Like, are you still like the bleeding heart liberal you were, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago?
I'm definitely still very much a liberal. I don't know if I'm
like
as much of a bleeding heart.
Blue
though.
No matter who?
Blue no matter who?
Like, is it like you're just going to vote whoever, like Democrat no matter what? Like, my parents are like that. A lot of boomers are like that, you know. And the Republicans have them too. They're just like, well, we just always vote Republican, so that's what we're doing. We're voting for that.
I don't think I've had much of a change of heart. I think the world has changed. I think the parties have changed.
Yeah.
And I think I haven't changed. I'll quote Bill Maher. He said, I didn't leave the party. The party left me, you know, and I think that a lot of people feel that way on the right and on the left.
Sure.
I think the Republican Party kind of started to split back in like 2010 when you had like the whole Tea Party and everything, like really start to kind of make factions in the Republican Party.
Yep.
And then the liberals kind of had their heyday, right? It was like Obama. Everyone loves Obama. And then I think the Democratic Party has started to have a split in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years with the woke mob. Okay,
Yep. Yeah.
So you've got like the Tea Party way over here. So like you got the right and the left. We used to be like here and here. Now we're over here and over here. You know.
Well, see, I think it's slightly different.
How do you see it?
I think that the shifts have both been to the left.
Oh, yeah. I've heard people say that.
The Tea Party response was a reaction to the Republicans shifting to the left. It wasn't that the party had always been in a spot and these Tea Partiers came out and started saying all this crazy right stuff. It's like, no, wait, you guys left behind all of this stuff that was kind of central to our philosophy about things, mostly on the taxes issues. And I mean, and now I think that the Trump campaign going back to 15 and 16 when he first got in to now is just, it's a symptom of the same thing. He stepped in and grabbed that nomination because the Republicans had become, the leadership of the Republican Party had become way too familiar and like go along to get along with the Democrat leadership. And don't you feel like the uniparty is like it's going strong?
So let me ask you this. What are the unifying conservative principles that you feel like you grew up with or that have been lost, and why did they get lost? Why do you feel like the Republican Party has moved left rather than further right?
Now I'm thinking about it again. Like I think back to, when Reagan was in office and when I was a kid, right? And I was just kind of starting to grasp some of these concepts because my dad was an accountant, right? And he was thinking about this kind of stuff all the time. And I realized that, Reagan had all of these ideals that he wanted to promote during his administrations. But you go back and you look at what actually occurred. It's supposed to be, lower the income tax, get production up, economic growth. And then you look and it's like, well, okay, sure. You made a move on the highest marginal income tax rates, which were just ridiculous coming out of the Carter administration, and the entire interest rate debacle coming out of the late 70s. And, Volcker steps in, he jacks up the interest rates to get everything to kind of try and jump the train back onto the track. And they brought the income tax rates down, and then the deficit. Actually, Reagan was the first time we had $1 trillion. You realize that? We went from the first $1 trillion budget to the first $1 trillion deficit in a generation.
Yeah, when did we hit $1 trillion in
trillion?
And not in deficit, but in debt. I don't think we have $1 trillion. Do we have $1 trillion deficit?
Oh, the $1 trillion debt is
How much?
Oh my God, I don't even know how far back that is.
I'll check. Keep
so
talking.
let's see. If you can basically go president by president and cut it in half. So now it's at 35.
35 what? Trillion in debt?
35 trillion. That's the stupid number they tell us.
I was like 44.
It's more like 500 trillion, but who cares?
Jesus.
So when Obama left, it was around 20, I believe. When he got in, it was around 10. When Bush got in, it was around 5 or
So they just
4.
keep doubling it.
And so, yeah, you go back. And so the $1 trillion national debt must have been accumulated. We probably got there, Daddy Bush, maybe? Late 80s, early 90s. I haven't gone back and looked at that sequence.
I think it was in my lifetime.
It's, so it's
We have
hard.
36 trillion in debt.
That's
And then-
today.
Yes. So we're $36 trillion, 35.85 trillion in debt for the USA. And then the deficit is how much we lose.
the
How much
annual.
how much further in debt do we go
The
each year,
annual
right?
amount. Yep.
And that's 1.7 trillion for 2024.
Yeah, it's been $1 trillion or more
Every
since
year.
Obama
Sorry,
broke
1.83
the trillion mark. When Bush left office, you had that whole who do we blame for the deficit from this time? It was also stupid because it was an ingrained function. And the reason that it got so bad was because of their stupid responses to all of their cronies losing all their value and all all of the market crap all imploded. And they didn't let it finish. They intervened before the actual drop was done. And we never went back. This entire process has covered over what was really going on. It might be 10 times worse now than it was then, just by measure of over leverage. And an entity like BlackRock is absolute proof that that's the case.
So Chad wants to go here.
Let me bring you back to the original question. What do you think, like in the Republican Party and in conservatives in general, what values do you think have been lost or just even sidetracked?
Yeah,
In what ways do you feel like your party has moved to the left?
well, going along to get along on all of the DEI categorization stuff.
You think your party has been in favor of that? Has gone along with it?
Enough of them have been.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? More inclusion. Well, you think I can talk about how I feel like the left has
maybe
gone further left.
Phil, take a second, maybe
I
jot
feel
down.
like so.
Yeah,
I've been called a centrist by some people in my own family. So maybe you're not the only one that feels like I've had a change of heart. Like I said, I don't think I've left the party. I think the party's been leaving me. But I feel like the left has taken their eye off the ball and has gone too far left on things like, the whole trans issue and
culture.
The whole woke culture is too much,
Right.
and being woke before it was like a movement was a good thing, like you're woke, you're seeing, what's really going on
Realizing
behind
what the system is doing.
It was
lifted the
like
curtain. Then it
you're like
became-
in the Matrix.
Yes,
You know,
then it became trendy to be woke, and then it all became about just canceling people, And it's like, oh well, I've uncovered the truth about this guy, or I've uncovered the truth about this lady, and now I'm going to expose them for the monster that they are.
right?
And it's like, guess what? No one's perfect. Everyone has made mistakes. That doesn't mean that everyone deserves to be canceled for every little mistake that they've made. Some people do deserve to be canceled for sure.
Right.
But I feel like everyone we've kind of hit this point where there's been more of a backlash against the woke culture.
People are fed up. Finally,
Agreed.
It took fucking long enough, dude.
But that's the thing. I think it's taking a lot shorter now than it has in years past.
Right. They realize, like, people on the left, they had so much control over it. Even like businesses, dude. Like, you really had to watch what you say if you worked for like a Democratic company.
Any company, the HR department in any company.
I mean, not at restaurants. It's a little more lenient.
True.
But even some of those now, dude. Like, I know some of my buddies that have gotten like talked to for shit that you and I would used to say at like old Chicago with all of our coworkers that everyone used to laugh about.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my good friends have like either lost their job for it or have like gotten sat down and talked to by a manager and have been punished like in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, you can't say the things that have been said in the past as openly anymore. And part of that's a good thing. Part of it is also people being overly sensitive.
Right.
You know, people say horrible things that are probably like, you know, when you were in high school, was everything gay? Oh, you're a fag. Everything's gay.
I think that. Do you think that's a generation?
Oops.
You're good. You're good.
Sorry.
No, you gotta fix
But
it.
looking
Do you think
back
that's
on
a
that-
generation thing? Like, because I was born.
Yes.
I'm in 91. I was
Yeah.
91.
89.
Okay, so like our generation, like growing up, like we use the word gay as like stupid.
Exactly.
Is the way you word it.
And
Like,
looking back on it,
we used to see the commercials. What do you say? That's so gay. Do you know what?
Exactly.
Do you remember those?
And looking back on it, was that like super cool? And like, if I could go back, would I still say everything's gay? No, I wouldn't.
No, I don't do it now.
That's not cool.
At least I try not to. Like, there's still like, I got like conditioned to like saying it for a while. Like, it took some. It took some training, my own kind of mental training to be like, I'm not going to call that gay.
Retarded.
Like, yeah.
Everything was retarded. Remember that? Everyone used to say that, right?
Yeah.
I remember like the day that died in my head. I think I said it, and there was some girl next to me, and she was like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
And as she said, I don't like that, I kind of hurt in my mind. I was like, you know what? I don't like that either. That's really like not cool. Like, I know people that, you know, have mental disabilities and stuff. And like to call everything retarded because you don't like it or you think it's stupid, like that's lame. So all that to say, on the other hand, too, people have become so sensitive where you say anything that's offensive, and it's like then now you're canceled. It's like both sides can be right and both sides can be wrong, you know. So and it's in my mind, that's one example of how the left has gone further left and has quote unquote, you know, left me behind. I felt like in the past, I felt like I was very far left.
For sure.
I don't feel like
I feel like remember when
far left anymore.
Remember when we did that COVID podcast? That's why I want to bring it back because I know we did that whole one on COVID back when it was like in the thick of it. I feel like you were and that was only like 3 years ago, not as long as like the flat Earth one, and you were pretty far left like just a few years ago too. So this transition seems fairly recent for you.
I still think the Republican Party is far worse than the Democratic Party. But you know, I'm honest enough though. I'm honest enough though to look at things that are wrong in my own party and say, guys, we're going too far on this, or you know, we're taking our eye off the ball. We're talking about trans issues and Gaza.
Yeah. What do you think about the transgender,
like legalizing drugs in Portland? You got like the drug cities and stuff and whatnot. Now that's too far left. We've gone too far.
What do you think about Kamala doing transgender surgeries on like immigrants and people in jail?
I looked that up. That was we've all seen that political ad.
There's an ad.
Have you seen it?
Yep.
It's a clip of her saying that she supports
all
the
trans people will have
Kamala's
access.
about they, them. Trump's about you.
Yeah, it doesn't.
No, he's not. Trump's about him. I mean, not about you.
The sad part to me on that front is that, you know, we're being told from the center of the institution that you know, that claims to be the arbiter of, you know, whether or not a particular type of treatment or intervention should be made, and it seems to me that they're completely ignoring the actual problems.
Yeah. Hold on, can I pause you for a second? Because I don't think you said you looked up that issue about if Kamala actually like performing that surgery on her. I don't think you ever said if you found out if she was doing it or not. So I want to bring us back.
Yes, Kamala is performing surgeries on inmates in prison that are here illegally from space. No, I did look it up. So that clip that we're seeing in that ad comes from 2019 when she was campaigning to be the nominee.
Okay.
And yes, she does support, or did in 2019. She hasn't spoken on it recently. No. Again, that was kind of, you know, trendy, you know, five years ago. And then that's a problem. That's part of the problem with the left is I think we've tried to be so inclusive that it's like, which is good. I want to be inclusive. I want trans people to do their thing and be happy and whatnot. But we're giving that so much airtime when we have much bigger problems. Sorry, I'm getting off track here.
No, you're good. You're good.
The point is, yes, she did support that. Now, what else I found out is there's only been 2 people that are American-born citizens that were in the federal prison system that wanted to actually take advantage of this. 2. You know how many illegal immigrants in the prison system needed to take advantage of this or wanted to take advantage of this? Zero. You know, so again, it's one of those things that's getting a lot of airtime. That's a non-issue. Like, why are we talking about this? This is a dumb thing to be talking about. We have much bigger fish to fry.
Now, hold on. This is so if you have a particular position, and it can be on any topic. No individual instances of that particular idea have taken place, then it's not a problem, because that's not how things are portrayed in the other direction ever.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean,
no, I think if someone's making an issue out of something that's affecting hardly anyone, then they're wrong.
No,
we should not be making a mountain out of a molehill.
But this is my point. Whether or not any policy ever comes to fruition, and actually whether any of these treatments are being undertaken, it's the support for the possibility of it happening that is important.
I agree. That's what I'm saying.
And that's why the ad of her, and then see, I want to give a little bit of leeway to your side on this. That clip comes from the portion of the process where you're trying to grab all of the fringes and get them to support you so that you can then move to the middle and try to beat the other guy, being mealy mouth and basically reflections of each other. Trump busted that wide open. Romney did it. McCain did it, and they both lost. Mm-hmm. They lost big time. And that's I think that's really what gave him, like, the blinders come off, and it's like, holy crap, these guys are going to mealy mouth the Republican Party's way into complete irrelevance operating this way. And they did, didn't they?
Giving lip service to issues that shouldn't be on the top 10.
They didn't have a shot. Well, it's not even, I don't think it's just the distinction between the Democrat Party and the Republican Party had become so small because both sides were being led by the exact same group of people. Like, was Romney a bad guy for being a private equity firm? Or is BlackRock the end all be all of saving the universe?
I do not feel like
it doesn't make any. It doesn't even make sense.
Was not a bad guy.
No, but he was a terrible candidate.
Yeah, same thing with Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
Were a Bernie
terrible
supporter.
candidates.
Trump has been a fantastic candidate.
I thought you were
He's a mess.
I thought you were a Bernie supporter back when he was running.
No,
really?
No.
Who were you supporting back then?
Cory Booker.
That was 2016, right?
Cory Booker's my man. I love him. I've been watching him for like 15 years. You know about Cory Booker?
I've seen plenty of him. I'm having trouble recalling any particulars about him.
He was a mayor of Newark, New Jersey, back when I was in college, and I had a subscription to Time magazine, and I read that a lot. And I think he was in there a couple times. He was probably on the cover a couple times, but there was stories where, you know, he was literally like running into burning houses and saving people like in his community. There was another snowstorm where he just went outside and was just shoveling people out of the snow. He's like a comic book mayor, you know, like I just love the guy. Okay. Love the guy. So, and he did run. He has run for president. He hasn't gained a lot of traction, you know, but he's also very young. So I would like to see him kind of be on like the next, you know, up and coming, you know, leaders on my side, you know. He's a good dude. I like him.
I do have to say that I've seen coverage on him where I thought he was an absolute freaking lunatic, but there are other points. He's one of those that kind of goes back and forth over the line from where I'm sitting. He's not completely incapable of seeing the wisdom from another point of view on things. I don't know. These just in general. I mean, I think he's better than what's been presented over a lot of this past period of time.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders was, you know, like ironically, like a huge hot button thing, you know, with all the young people.
Yeah.
But my thing with Bernie was He's kind of a political rogue. He doesn't have a lot of friends in politics, similar to Trump. You know, he's going to piss a lot of people off.
Well, Trump was over in politics. That's why a lot of people like him. He didn't get groomed like a lot of the politicians.
Whereas
do
Bernie Sanders
in.
was in politics, but basically made no friends.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
So
I
looked
like a
at
Wellstone,
Bernie.
Kucinich.
I looked at Bernie. I was like, if he gets elected, I don't think he's going to be able to get anything done because obviously that whole team is going to be against him, and then people that are on his team don't really like him. You know?
Okay, how about this for this next one? So that we could just ping off of just straightforward question. You just said like 2 minutes ago Trump is a great candidate. Chad doesn't think so. Let me just hear like your argument for why you think Trump is great.
Well, because he basically he saw the wave coming and he just got up on his surfboard and surfed the wave. I mean, it's one of the most straightforward concepts of like political strategy from recent history. You have a party that is completely resistant to actually taking any, undergoing any real steps to deliver on what their supporters actually want. And he steps in and says, okay, well, I'll do it. I'll take the stance on actually, trying to resolve this immigration situation. I'll step in. I'll actually have a presidency where we don't initiate any new foreign conflicts, and on and on. Actually trying to take it to China. Fundamentally, from a theoretical point of view, tariffs are god awful. Mm-hmm. But once you construct a system that functions so corruptly and so poorly that there are particular things that can actually give you a chance to take a breath and recover. This stuff that we've got going on right now, tariffs they're a relatively decent intervention to try and shock the system back into a realignment. The problem with the tariff thing is like I said earlier, are we going to keep going on the crash course, or are we going to give ourselves enough time to pause so that we could possibly intervene before we get back to crashing again? Because this kind of a thing, this kind of a one-sided intervention like a tariff, it basically has the ability to create one significant change in behavior. And if it's successful, it gives you space to make further adjustments. But if you just put the tariff in and now everything that comes from China's got this big tax price tag set on it, and that flow of goods stops, well, it gives industry in the United States a chance to redevelop itself. But if you don't do anything about the underlying problem, that being the fact that they set this whole damn thing up to ship all of our manufacturing over to China to save on wages, if you don't correct that, the crash will continue again in the future at some point. So it's a good intervention right now to give us a chance, but it is not a going forward policy that's going to deliver utopia. It's ridiculous.
So what makes him a good candidate?
Yeah. The fact that he actually...
You're talking about policy.
Yeah, he like all of these rallies that he goes to.
You're saying that his policies make him a good candidate. Is that what you're saying?
His intentions to create. So do you
think Trump has better intentions than Kamala, and he has intentions of turning America around and making life better for everyone here?
I think that on the whole,
like overall,
the concepts of the policy changes.
Yep.
Getting a hold of the border. Starting the deportations of this massive influx, it has to be done. What are some of the other things? I know that he's, I don't know what he could actually do on the whole, the whole gender ID. I think the one area where he could really do something is on the whole Title IX with the college athletics. That would be one point where he could actually help take a stand against the just complete defiance of reality on that stuff. Because it is, I mean, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for women on all fronts. Men don't really have to worry about it because you go into your locker room at the gym and some woman who wants to shave her head and wear tank tops and pretend she's a guy that's not a threat. The other way around is an absolute threat. no matter how innocent somebody's trying to be. You can't allow that. You can't crack the door open for that kind of an environment, because just like having political structures, people with bad intentions are going to get in there.
So Kamala has worse intentions than Trump, you believe? All right, hold on. Give a second to Chad to respond to anything he wants to say. And if you don't want to respond to anything, then you can just give your side of why you think Trump is not a good candidate.
Yeah, so I look at it like this. Joe Biden, old, right?
Yeah.
Trump, also old.
Kamala,
right?
Woman.
Yes, she is a woman. So when we all watched the Trump and Biden debate, it became apparent to everyone that Biden is, he's old, he's slipping, right? Yeah. And then what happened? He bowed out and said, "Yep, it's time for me to step aside. Someone else needs to step in," and it ended up being Kamala. So that's another discussion. The point I'm trying to make here is, and I'll talk about Trump here in a second. Yep. Both candidates are deeply flawed. I'm talking about Biden and Trump. Both candidates are deeply flawed. That was one day where I felt great about my team, so to speak. I'm like, good, we did the right thing. This guy should not be in office anymore. He needs to step down. He can't run again. And if he wins, it would not be good for anybody. He should not, be in office. Trump, same thing. He's also old. I think if you're watching, you could probably admit he's lost a step since, the last election. Mm-hmm. He's lost some of his fire. He's getting a little slower. He's slowing down. They're both very, very, very old. What makes Trump insanely worse is he has been convicted of raping women, talking about grabbing by the pussy. He's a chauvinist. He's a pig. He's a narcissist.
Incorrect on the rape conviction.
He's only in it for himself. He's a very, very disgusting person.
Well,
he says horrible things. He's been bankrupt a bunch of times. He's a disgusting guy, man. And he's not in it for the American people. No. He's in it for himself. He's all about Trump. So I can't imagine, and it's interesting to talk to people that actually, watch all of this and like really, really love that guy. Because what I think is really going on, and what is going on, is people don't vote for, most of the time in presidential elections, who they want in office. They're casting a vote against who they don't want in office, right?
Absolutely.
The last person that we really had that fit that description of someone that you really want to vote for was Obama. The left people voted for Obama. They weren't voting against, McCain and Romney. People really wanted to vote for Obama.
Politics were boring back then.
Right. It was exciting for me, people on the left that had an inspiring leader that was really someone that you wanted to vote for and wasn't, a very controversial, disgusting person. So anyway,
so no matter how good Trump's policies are or how good he could do for the country, just his past is unforgivable. And when you're president of the United States, you should have, some values, some principles.
You can find a better guy.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. You can still find a Trump-esque guy that's not such a piece of shit, like a total fucking asshole. Like, you don't want him in office again. Like, that's not going to go well. It didn't go well when he was in office, and it's going to go badly again. He'll probably get elected. I think he's going to win. I made a bet back in 2020 when he lost with my stepdad, and I said, he's going to run again, and he's going to win. And my stepdad took that bet. He said, there's no way. He said, Trump won't even be the nominee again. There's no way.
And he's the only one.
Here we are.
And he's the only one who's ever ran against women.
What do you mean?
Trump, like no other president has ran against women. He ran against Hillary. Oh, no, not mine. I forgot he ran against Biden the second time.
Oh, okay. Running against women.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying. He's the only presidential candidate that ran against females. He ran against Hillary once, and now he's running
then
against
it's Biden, now it's against Kamala.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the only president in history that's ran against a woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does that matter?
Well, it's just an interesting fact, right?
Is it interesting?
I think so.
Okay. I don't see how it's interesting, but maybe gender politics is more interesting to younger people or something. I don't think it matters to
it matters
team
to
anymore.
more people than.
Ooh, we really want to have a woman president. Like, are you seeing ad campaigns like that? Like,
no, I don't.
We need to have a female
you're
president.
You're not seeing campaigns to it, but you're seeing like. So I was actually talking to this guy at Lifetime. Actually, I was up at the gym in the sauna. He was an old guy, African guy, and he was just asking. He kind of got in the shit about politics. He goes, he's like, you voting this year? I was like, oh no. I was like, I'm not sure. He's like, what about you? I'll just go real quick, Phil, and then you can go. He's like, no. He's like, one too old, the other one woman. And then like everyone in the sauna started laughing, right? So I bring that up because there are guys that have the mindset that don't feel like a woman can lead this country. Yeah. And Trump happened to ran against one woman the first time. And then he had Biden, and now he's running against another woman. And you're going to have people that even if they don't vote, that if they would have voted for the Democrats, if it was a man, they're still losing out.
Yeah, but
on there.
Being too old. Why I
said, it's not an ad campaign thing. It's in people's minds. It's in people's minds that they feel like a woman just can't have that position.
So being too old should disqualify you.
Yeah.
Should being a woman disqualify you? Of course not.
I don't think so. No, absolutely not.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We're on the same page there. Should being a woman disqualify you from running for office?
I think that the ontology of men and women, for the most part, women shouldn't really be involved in politics.
Yeah, interesting.
Whoa.
So he's one of them.
Whoa. So you think women should not hold public office?
No, I don't think that competent women who have something to contribute should be locked out for being women. I just don't think that the idea that like any political body like the House of Representatives should be 50% women. I think that's the most ridiculous concept.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about
we're just talking about
should being too old disqualify you for running for president, or being too young? 2-year-olds run for office. Should we let 100-year-olds run for office?
I thought we were talking about women.
We are. This is so.
He's gonna get.
He told a story about the guy in the sauna that said, "I'm not voting this campaign cycle because one's too old and one's a woman." So I'm asking, should both of those disqualify you, or is one of them a solid disqualifier while the other one is just sexist?
Well, no, I don't think.
I'm not trying to trick you here. I'm asking a simple question: should being too old disqualify you from being able to run for office?
No,
I think the answer is no. We should let any age run for office.
No, like if you did a back and forth with a Rupert Murdoch who's in his early 90s and is sharp as shit, why in the hell would he be prevented?
Okay, let me rephrase. If someone is going, if they're going, if they can't pass capacity. Sure. Yeah. Okay, so let's rephrase. Should mental capacity bar you from running for office?
Yes.
Okay. Should your gender identity or sex bar you from running for office?
Not of itself. No.
Thank you. Good. Okay. Then easy.
So everyone's on the same page.
Yes.
But not everyone else. The people of America that aren't going to vote for someone just because she's a woman, though.
Right.
That's just what it is.
And that's a bad reason to not vote for her. There's probably plenty of good reasons to not vote for her, but because she's a woman, that's a bad reason to not vote for her. If that's your reason for not voting for her, good. Thank you. Yeah. Don't vote ever again.
You probably should be voting. Yeah, you probably should be voting anyway.
Well, that's okay.
Something go ahead and
that's something that I would actually add to that is that I don't think that women should vote.
Oh boy.
And the only reason it's controversial is because everybody's been raised in an environment where women can vote.
So why shouldn't women be able to vote?
Well, it's on its face. Whenever it was brought up, before it was actually codified in the 19th Amendment, every population of women, the general population, whenever they were asked if they wanted to be able to vote, they said no. Overwhelmingly, 90+%.
When was this, though? Like how long ago?
In the early 20th century.
So women didn't want to vote.
No, they did.
Yes, they did.
No, they did
not. The suffrage movement was a pretty big thing.
There was a small group of women, basically ugly,
then why do we see such high voter turnout
and ignored
among women
who wanted to be treated like attractive women. They didn't want.
Do you know female turnout for voting is much higher than men?
Of course it is. They're ding dongs.
So a whole half of the. I mean, it's not surprising. I'm not surprised. We have a flat earther here. Yeah. So women should not be able to vote, but you think they shouldn't be barred from holding office?
Well,
that seems like contradicting.
Flat earther on this side of the table. Preference for being used as a political tool as opposed to being a moral authority on that side of the table.
I've never espoused that. Well,
that's
you want
bullshit. You want women to be able to vote, right? You have espoused
being a flat earther. I'm not pulling an insult out of the air. I'm using your own words against you.
All I did was present your position. If you want women to vote, that opens them up to political manipulation. If they don't vote and they undertake their role as mothers and domestic, homekeepers, they are moral authorities. And that's why women in general didn't want the vote.
No.
You can look that up. It's plain as day.
Being able to vote is far better than being open to being exposed to political manipulation. So on one hand, you can be, you have the power to vote, but you're being exposed to political manipulation. That's what you're saying. And on the other hand, you can't vote at all.
Yeah.
That's like saying, here, you can have this cake that's overcooked, or you can have no cake at all.
Did your mom vote?
No, incorrect.
Did your mom vote?
No, you can either hang on to the beautiful, tasty cake that you have, or you can trade that in for a burnt, nasty cake. That's the metaphor. Moral authority within the home, as a partner with your husband, or as just a member of a family who has not left the home because you don't have a husband.
This is a false dilemma. You're saying you're going to give up being a moral authority if you get the right to vote. Guess what? You don't have to vote. You're not mandated to.
There's no dilemma.
It's a basic human right to be able to have a say in the country that you live in, to vote.
Really?
Yes.
There's a right to vote.
Yes.
No, there's a convention.
Basic human right.
There's a convention to allow people to vote.
Well,
there's no right to vote
in a developed society. We try to have lots of nice things for everybody, right?
Let me ask you.
So if you're saying half the population shouldn't even have the right to vote.
Most people, it's far more than half the population.
All right.
But women should never have the right. Women shouldn't have the right to vote.
You could call me insane. That's fine. What I want to know is how do you establish from first principles what you consider to be a right? I was really hoping that it would get here.
Things that are easily given to everyone, like the right to vote, I would call those human rights. Easily with the stroke of a pen
to people?
With the stroke of a pen, you now have the right to vote. You also have the right to health care. You have the right to clean water. You have the right to access to food.
So the entire process is people can get together and write a rule on paper, and that's what makes it correct.
If it allows a huge number of people to have a better life, absolutely.
Okay, so it's utility.
I don't know where you're going with this.
Well, can I tell you how I establish whether or not something is actually a right or not?
How about you tell us why women shouldn't be able to vote?
Because it's not part of their ontology.
What does that even mean?
Can we agree that men and women are different?
Absolutely.
Okay. So within any given population, managing to continue that community to develop and exist, there are different roles that need to be met. Production, organization, administration. There's all sorts of different roles within any community.
Sure. I think I see where you're going to go. Continue.
Now, can we also agree that there are particular roles that, in general, men are better at and that women are better at?
Yeah.
Okay.
In small areas, yes.
Yeah. In small areas. Okay. So how badly do you want to limit that?
I don't know. You've put a number on it, like 5%.
No,
10%.
I mean, like what's an example of something where the difference between men and women is actually allowable to be brought into the argument?
Say that again.
Well, the difference is too small or not at all.
Because my outlook on it is that men and women are fundamentally different, and therefore there are particular roles that they are best suited to.
Okay, so if we're looking at a Venn diagram, okay, like men are here, women are here. On the extreme side of your argument, you would say, or you might say, someone might say on your side that those bubbles don't even touch, right? And then someone on my extreme side of the argument say those bubbles are perfectly overlapped. Anything a man can do, a woman can do, right? Are we getting somewhere here?
The opposites.
Right. So they're different things. They do different things. Look, left hand, right hand. It's different.
Yep.
They're different, but they are the same. In my mind, that overlap is enormous. Mm-hmm. It's almost 100%. Yeah. It's not a perfect 100%, but most things that men can do, women can also do. Most things that women can do, men can also do.
Okay. But I think Phil's trying to say who does it. There's always going to be one gender that can do those things like far superior to the other one. Like for men, like, we can do most physical jobs.
Sure.
Any physical labor jobs, we're going to be able to do way better than most women. There's going to be the exceptions, of course.
To throw voting into this into that discussion, I think is a major mistake and is out of touch with reality. To say that women shouldn't be able to vote. I mean, they're people just like you and me. They wake up and they fall asleep. They eat food. They experience this world just the same as we do. I can't believe I'm having to argue this point. And they should also have a say in how the world is structured around them.
Okay, now that's a value judgment.
Yeah.
They should.
Okay, it's a value judgment. Call it whatever you want, but that's what I'm saying. It's a human right. They should have that right.
Now, the thing I like to example I like to it's a completely hypothetical. It's a thought space example. Okay. Right? Town of 100 people. Right. And we talk about all of the roles that, men and women would fill in order to keep, a small population like that, continuing to exist going forward. When you're in that kind of an environment, there's only getting shit done and taking care of each other. There's no voting. So really, the voting illusion only comes into play once you have enough people to hide the reality. And the reality is that the difference between men and women is that everything modern civilization is built on requires the extreme efforts of men. And most of those efforts cannot be fulfilled by women. And the other point of reality that the 100-person village exemplifies and gets veiled over by a large population is that ultimate responsibility never falls on the shoulders of a woman, ever.
I think there's a lot of women out there that would disagree with you.
Well, I know they would disagree, but
Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, why would anything fall on the shoulders of Queen Elizabeth?
She's the queen.
Because she has men that will enforce her wishes. So in that case, the ultimate responsibility falls on the shoulders of men. It always does.
So in that village of 100 people, why couldn't all 100 vote? Let's say it's 50 men, 50 women.
There wouldn't. What would you accomplish with voting in a population that size?
More representation?
Yeah, what would you need to be represented in what?
Take abortion right now. Okay. So men making decision about women's bodies.
Whoa.
Here we go. This is a good segue.
Whoa.
From women not being allowed to vote into abortion. This is a good one.
I did not think AB was going to be the thing that came up. Oh,
how could it not come up?
Goodness gracious. Okay. Go ahead.
So if you ask a woman if having the right to abortion is important to them, most would say yes.
Okay. That's fine.
So there's an example right there of why do you want to vote? Well, I would like to vote so that I can, influence the people that are representing my community to vote in my favor so that I have the right to have an abortion if I am in a situation where I need one.
Yeah. And then that's why I was asking about, like, how do you establish what a right is earlier? Because there's no right to abortion. It's ridiculous.
You can say there's no rights for anything. There's this. It's killer. Be killed. Is that where you're coming from?
That's kind of what it ends up reducing to. I have a slightly
if you want to live in a state of nature, then go ahead. But we have an organized society where we try to have a good life for everyone.
Yeah.
So in an organized society where we try to have good lives for everyone, we try to have the most amount of good for the most amount of people, right?
There's the utility again.
Yeah, utility. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And the smuggling in of the value judgments by the vague notion of good life.
What is a good life?
See, now the problem with this whole...
I'm trying to deal in reality. If you want to get like super abstract.
Dude, I'm telling you, the abstract is what governs what happens in reality. Like gravity. Like you hold a ball at the top of a building and you drop it, and you can use a math equation to figure out how long it takes to hit the ground, right? That's mathematical formalism or formulation of a physical reality that we can observe, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if there are particular things about human beings that you can observe and you know them to be true for the most part, outside of extreme cases of, mental problems or, just an infantile inability to recognize things, you have to be able to derive you have to be able to draw on something that's basically true that everybody can agree on, as opposed to coming up with things that people want to do and then giving them the label of rights. I like to use the praxeological approach of studying economy to establish what are the results that are going to come out of a particular policy based on whether or not they comply or deviate from things that we can know to be true. And when you realize that things like freedom of association and exchange of value, when you start to try to derive these more complex modern situations, you realize that what a right actually is it's a derivable necessity in order to get the results from the analysis. It's like supply and demand, right? We know that if the amount of something that is available increases, the price is going to drop. That's just marginal utility, right? Single loaf of bread is going to have a higher value to you than the 100th loaf of bread if you have 100 loaves of bread. It's logically necessary, because if you start with 100 loaves of bread, whenever you use something up, it's the least valued. Otherwise, you'd be using up something more valuable ahead of something less valuable, and that's nonsensical. That's why the last loaf of bread is the most valuable in that scenario when you have 100 compared to 1.
So how are you tying all this back until abortion? Yeah, and
I'm waiting for us to arrive at a point.
We're getting there.
Yeah, but when you say something like the right to abortion, where does that come from? That's just something that people want to do. Well, wanting to do something isn't what establishes a right, is it?
So this could be an interesting place to start here. So what do you think about the Bill of Rights?
I think the Bill of Rights was a severe mistake.
Okay. So
have you read the Federalist and the Anti-Federalists?
Think I've read parts of it back in the day, but
yeah,
not
and the
recently.
Anti-Federalists, the ones that did not want to sign on to the Constitution.
Phil, I just let you go on for quite a while. Let's talk about the Bill
about
of Rights
loaves of bread.
Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights.
Just call anything a right.
So
and never call anything to task.
So is the freedom of assembly a good thing? Like right now, we're gathered together here sharing ideas, right?
Yep.
Do you know why the freedom of assembly is a good thing? And don't come back, well, what is good? Well, it's a value judgment. So, but I think I kind of understand what you're saying. To arrive at some kind of destination. So the freedom of assembly is important so that people can get together, share ideas. And if you're living in a tyrannical situation or government, whatever, you can start spreading ideas of how things could be better. Right. So if we're all living in a dystopian society and I'm the dictator and I say you're not allowed to gather in groups of 3 or more, you can only gather in groups of 2. Right. Mm-hmm. That's effectively stopping the spread of information. Right. Stopping the spread of ideas. OK, mm-hmm. Internet's gone. All that. Also the freedom of the press, to share information, the right to bear arms. These are all rights in the Bill of Rights that have been figured out from trial and error in human life, right? Like, if we don't have the right to bear arms, then we can just be suppressed by our government, right? The Bill of Rights is a good thing, if you ask me, not a major mistake, because it's a baseline of rights that everyone gets to have, right? So we're not going to live in a society where you don't have you have no press, you can't organize together, all that, blah blah blah. What's interesting about go ahead. And then I'm going to come back to my main where I was going with that.
Does the existence of the list change the rights?
Yes. If you don't have this codified in law,
and now you've illustrated,
bad things are going to happen.
You just illustrated the point I wanted to make.
Okay.
Make it after here. Let Chad finish what he was going to go down first.
Go ahead. The Anti-Federalists warned against it. They said that if you enumerate a list of rights in the document, then it's going to give people the impression that it's the document that the rights come from, and that's not true.
Well, it's a moral. It's a moral, ethical right. What's the word I'm looking for? It's necessary. These are when they're enumerated on a list, then they become law. It's now it's normal. Are you saying that?
No, you and I can both agree on this concept. You can accept that you like the Bill of Rights because it makes it's an attempt to clarify, right, on a point by point basis. The people that didn't want it written down, they wanted to avoid the misconception of what the basis of the rights actually is. And the idea that it's the government that issues the rights is the problem that ends up being born out of enumerating them in a list that way.
You're saying they are inherent to just being a human being.
Yeah, if they're not inherent, then they are just given by men and are arbitrary.
The problem is that's always abused until it's put into law. Then those rights that we're all born with, we should always have the right for to freely assemble like we are right now.
Yeah.
That's not the case. I mean, that's been trampled on time and time again, unless that's in law, to say you can't bar people from gathering in groups and sharing ideas.
So then you do believe that it's the issuance of the document that creates the rights. They're not inherent.
No, I believe they are inherent, but
then why do you need the list?
Because those rights will be trampled upon if it's not put into law.
They're trampled on anyway.
The point that I was trying to make is here's what's interesting to me.
Let him make his point.
Here's what's interesting to me about the whole abortion thing. So the Bill of Rights is a list, basically a list of things saying the government can't make laws about this, right? Okay. So what's interesting about abortion, I pose this to conservatives every now and then, and it just doesn't seem to get through. That the right to an abortion, if it was made into like a constitutional amendment, let's say, okay, but what we had was Roe v. Wade, right? So Roe v. Wade was preventing the government from making laws about abortion, right? It's left up to the individual, the family, the community, that individual, right?
Yeah, it was terrible law.
So let me just let's get through the argument of principle here. So on its face, it's a conservative value to say this is a protected individual right. You see where I'm going here? Right.
Oh, yeah.
So it's ironic to me that conservatives are the ones that want to wipe away Roe v. Wade and say we are going to make laws about this, when conservatives are so pro individual rights, right? I want less government intervention in my life. I don't want anyone to tell me what I can do. I'm going to be a good person on my own, right? I'm not going to make the wrong choices. Mm-hmm. I don't need the government to tell me what to do. The right is the ones that are making laws about what women can and cannot do with their bodies. I find that ironic. Do you find that ironic? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the stance of a conservative position when it comes to the federal government is to not create a one size fits all blanket for all of the states. That's the relationship. The federal government to the individual, that's a given, right? Because when you're talking about conservative ideas in the individuals, it's always going to be the case. Side with the individual against the government.
Right, which is why abortion should be amended.
Hold on.
To the Constitution.
The federal position that ended up being, translated through this terrible court decision, which was, the amount of writing about what an absolute tragedy it was, the way that whole thing went through. The relationship of the federal government is to the states on this point. And there are plenty of places in the country where the general population does not favor this no holds barred, moral irresponsibility, violent, murderous solution for your own personal convenience kind of arrangement that abortion is. And it doesn't matter how many times people argue about the exceptions for rape and incest. The campaign to make abortion available was always intended to liberate. And this is what's so crazy is that they wanted to liberate, quote unquote, women from the prison of a domestic life, being a wife and a mother and being at home. So they demonized that and glorified the seek a career, free love, do whatever you want, and then if you make a mistake, you can just throw it in the garbage.
It's even though a choice,
even though it's a human. No, the choice to stay at home
and be the mom, or to go have your own career.
When it comes to abortion, the bodily autonomy. Do you know where the bodily autonomy ends? When you have intercourse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
not a surprising argument from you.
Well, it shouldn't be because it's the correct argument. So you mean to tell
Once
me
you have sex, so you're now bound.
Well, okay. So is the argument?
Jutsu.
So is the argument that the women that need these abortions don't understand how intercourse creates a pregnancy?
This is an antiquated thought process, man.
It's been brushed aside as being, Stone Age or whatever, but it's the absolute reality.
Yeah, at a biological level, yes, sex is about making new people. But
and at the intellectual level, it's about an honest assessment of the sequence that takes place in time.
Sex is not just about making babies.
It's
a lot of fun, and it builds relationships.
Yeah, I know. And you know what? This is another good illustration as to the difference between one side and the other. One side wants to draw on the knowledge base derived from people who watch animals in cages and think that they're developing theories of human behavior. Basically, the behaviorists treat everything that people do like they're animals in a bin. Okay? That's where I have to have sex and I need to be bailed out when I make a mistake kind of garbage comes from, because there's no preemptive sense of a moral duty that if you engage in a fundamental biological process that leads to the creation of a new life, that you need to honor that. No, it's my convenience. It's my comfort. It's my choice. It's my body.
Here, let me ask Chad something real quick. It is the
most worn out, tired fallacy that the left has.
Yeah, Chad,
is all on AB.
Hold on.
All of it.
I don't care if you need to get laid, man.
Yeah. No, I've been telling them that for years.
And you know what? I'm not at all surprised that my statement of that position would lead to a personal attack on my sex life.
No, it's not.
Because it's not what's being said, right? Trump's a terrible person. That makes all of his ideas and policies terrible. I'm not a playboy. I don't beg women every month or every week or even every year for that matter. So that means I don't have any standing to take a position on abortion and the fact that it's completely immoral and ignores the actual autonomy of women before they get pregnant.
How late do you think, do you have, what are your thoughts on late abortions?
4 years
I know
old.
you should probably have. What's that?
4 years old.
Oh, he's in the Dr. Susskind camp. I mean, you do realize
this fucker's not working out.
Yeah, no,
cancel this.
We're gonna try this again.
No,
it's a heart, because third trimester, the heart. I know some states have the heartbeat law. Once you hear the baby's heartbeat, it's too late.
This is a good question,
right?
And this is where people can have intelligent debates about where does life start, right?
Right.
So
right.
Conception, birth, heartbeat, brain waves. Where do you draw the line, right? Erection, it's hard. I draw the line at the twinkle in my father's eye. So for me, there's two different answers here. There's what I believe personally, and then what I believe should be in law.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
So what I believe personally is a human life starts when it is viable outside of the human body, right? When it's no longer can't be classified as a parasite.
So when they're born.
Yeah. So I heard an interesting argument, and parasite is a kind of a pejorative word, a negative word.
Sure. Absolutely ridiculous, by the way.
But so what a parasite is defined as something that cannot survive outside of its host, right?
Okay.
So if you were to take let's say it's a 2-week-old pregnancy, right? It's a tiny cluster of cells. You can barely even see it. If you were to take that out and, try to feed it, it's not going to work, right? If you take something out at 9 months and feed it, it's probably going to work, right?
Yeah.
So for me, the line is, and I'll keep this short and then open it up to you. The line for me is when it's viable outside of the human body.
Okay.
What do you think, Doug?
I would probably, I haven't given this too much thought on it. I'm probably more of a heartbeat law guy. Once the baby's heartbeat law, that's good.
When is the heartbeat?
18 days.
There
Is
you
it
go.
that soon? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so 3 weeks. So
Yeah,
a lot of
I'm
women
sure
won't
it
even know.
varies.
They won't even know that
Right.
they're pregnant. You haven't even missed a period yet. You
Yeah,
know?
that's short.
Yeah, and that's why it's the best compromise. Now,
But to me, when you think about like if a human heart is beating, it's alive.
Well, I think a better argument is cognitive brainwaves, and
Okay.
maybe you won't like this argument, but let's say you get sick, Phil. You need a heart transplant, right? Give you a bionic heart. You got a new heart. You're good to go.
I get one of the plastic ones.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, cool.
Let's say you have cognitive problems. We can't give you a brain transplant, right? Then you're a new person. You're something else, right?
Yeah, that's a whole bizarre world.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say about the brain transplant.
So the point I'm making here is it's about human life isn't about a heartbeat. For me, to answer your point is
Sure.
I think the heartbeat is the line. I would respond and say I think it should be when you have brain waves and thoughts.
And when is that? When is that?
When you're having like
Yeah,
experiences.
no, in my mind, I was thinking heartbeat was more like later on, like later try.
We can check. I'm not sure if the 18
for sure.
days,
I didn't
that
know.
might be
Yeah,
true.
18 days sounds really fucking early.
Let's double check.
I had a misunderstanding about how fast I actually get a heartbeat. In Jesus Christ.
Oh, it's almost immediate that you start to see tissue differentiation, the beginning of the formation of the spinal cord and the backbone. That the head becomes a unique piece all within days. Now while you're looking that up, I just want to
6 weeks.
Okay, I was about to say 18 days. So, but you're still in first trimester.
Yeah, each trimester is 3 months.
Yeah.
22 days after conception or 5 weeks and 1 day. So 22 days.
22 days is only 3 weeks.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. It says at 6 weeks gestation, the embryo has a steady heartbeat around 110 beats per minute. Only 22 days after conception or 5 weeks and 1 day of gestation, the embryo's heart starts beating. So 6 weeks gestation is a steady heartbeat. Again, it's a continuum. It's not like all of a sudden now you have a heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of saying that like around 22 days is when you start seeing a heart
so
start
that's
to
when you
form.
start seeing 22 days, 5 weeks. How about this? Pregnancies are normally about 9 months.
Mhm.
Once you're over 4.5, like the halfway mark, I would say it's too late. That's my personal opinion.
Well,
I've always been pro
Viability outside the body.
Yeah, the
right?
other that's the other compromise line is what is the most premature a baby has been delivered and survived.
I think it's 20 weeks.
It is. It's less than half. It's less than half of normal gestation.
But that is the record
It's
holder. It's not like that. That
Well,
happens
the little
all the time.
sucker, the little
That's like-
sucker was
that is the
11
champion.
ounces and it was the size of a stick of
20
butter.
weeks, that's 5 months.
What's 5 buns?
5 months.
Oh, 5
months. Yeah.
5 months. I got you. I thought there was some slang I was
Some
missing
buns.
out on.
5 buns. No.
Okay.
5 buns.
Can I?
That's where it is.
Yeah.
I want to try just a short sequence of questions here.
Sure.
Now, are you guys on the all knowledge comes from experience bandwagon?
No,
Okay, well that's good.
we can learn from our ancestors. We write things down and we learn from reading books or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you also agree that there are particular things that are knowable that require no experience?
Say it one more time. Are there things that are knowable that require no experience?
Yeah. Is
Simply
there
through
knowledge
learning? Sure. You can learn about stuff. You can be locked in a cave your whole life and have this enormous library and still know things to be true. Yes. I would say yes.
Do you believe that I see a lot of this online, people with one side of a position, they always go into a narrative. They want to tell a story and they think that their story illustrates the point they're trying to make, and then the opposition will try to bring up a counterpoint, and the inevitable response from the original speaker is that, well, you haven't had my experience.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Fuck them.
Okay, good.
You can walk in someone else's shoes without actually putting them on.
Well, and I want to take it a step further. I want to say that there's a lot of knowledge that is only knowable through immaterial means, simply through the application of logic and reasoning about immaterial categories and what is possible and is not possible.
There's
a lot of knowledge to be gained there.
There's some things that you can't know unless you've experienced it. To give a morbid example, when I had kidney stones, I had to have a catheter removed. No matter what I read before having that catheter removed or heard from other people's testimonials,
no, that's a good example.
No way that I would know what that would feel like.
Right.
Once it happened, now I know what it feels like.
I got one. I got an example too.
Yeah. I'm sure we all do.
No matter what I read or how many stories you tell me about whatever happened with that, I will never know what that felt like.
Yeah, that's a good example. The reason that I go into this is that there's a huge portion of the population and almost overwhelmingly exclusive in academia. All knowledge comes from experience. It has to be picked up by the senses. It needs to be carried out with a trial and error on people, making them or allowing them to do this or that. But you don't agree with that. You actually will incorporate the immaterial and
absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
Good. In the observation world, has anybody ever observed life coming from non-life? I turned this damn thing down.
It's okay.
I gotta go answer.
Yeah. Okay. It's okay. Okay. We're back.
All right. So to pick up where we broke off, I was asking. I went into the whole immaterial, whether or not all knowledge is based on experience, blah blah blah. And you're open. You're not the complete limited materialist. Only solid stuff is real. You don't believe that
Absolutely
kind of stuff.
Not. Correct.
That's awesome. The thing that I wanted to get at is it's in reference to the whole AB thing. And I just want to say it just so that it's out there. And maybe you guys haven't heard this before. I don't ever hear any commentators say it. I think that the idea of when does life begin it's a complete misnomer. It's not. It doesn't actually grasp the issue at all because of our observations of living and non-living things.
Yeah, I think the last thing you said was, has anyone ever observed life come from non-life?
Exactly.
No one has ever observed that.
So when we have the fertilization of an egg, what is actually occurring is the continuation of two lives in one life. And so there is no life began, depending on your interpretation of what's available to examine.
It's a form of copy paste.
It's either creation or evolution. Regardless of how it came about, life only continues. It doesn't begin with an individual. Each individual is a continuation of life. And I just wanted to get that out.
That is an interesting point. Maybe you can talk about consciousness and whatnot. Obviously you don't share part of your mother's and your father's consciousness. You don't have their memories and whatnot. Right. You are an individual, right? You are a new individual, right?
That is some interesting, the whole genetic memory kind of idea.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff's interesting. I wouldn't completely throw that out wholesale, but
you get your parents, some of their traits and quirks and whatnot, but you don't get their memories.
Right.
Yeah.
You're not a true continuation of their life. Yes, I see what you're saying. They are, in my mind, I kind of view it as a copy paste. It's I'm going to take this essay, we're going to mash them together into a new essay, paste. Now we have a new essay.
And okay, one more short little thing. Would you agree that when it comes to that topic, that there's a conflation of the two different meanings of life?
Oh yeah, no one can agree on where life begins. Maybe I'm misunderstanding what you're asking though.
No, the idea of the general category of living and an individual living out their life. I feel those two definitions get conflated in a lot of the back and forth on that topic, because it's always want to go back to this idea of there's one crazy doctor and he was really close with the Clintons. I'm pretty sure his name was Suskind, Susskind. And this guy, big academic, wrote a book where he he took on the possibility of evaluating the viability of a life and determining whether or not it really qualifies for protection. And his bright line was, you're not a person until you understand the concept of tomorrow. Now, there are people who are full-grown adults who still don't understand that concept. That would put them in the disposable human category.
They don't deserve the right to
vote. They definitely shouldn't.
Should not. Definitely. What is tomorrow?
Okay, so we only got like 20, 30 minutes left here. Is there anything else you guys want to get into, like have left to say about abortion or women not being allowed to vote?
No.
Okay.
I wanted to hear you do the whole initiation of your getting into that. Sounded really interesting to me.
Oh, sure. And I think maybe another, and we can touch on that. I think maybe another good issue, maybe not, is the whole Israel and of the whole wars that are going on. I mean, that's another thing that we could talk about. But anyway, well, sir, Doug, you're the moderator. You can decide where we end off on.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we were just about to talk about before we unpaused the video is Doug was mentioning how some people don't know where to start, how to get into politics.
Yep.
And how I started when I started to get interested in it. My teachers and my parents pointed me in the direction of, very, very baseline place to start is go online, go to a major news outlet and go look at the election tab on their website and go look at each candidate's platform. Okay. That's a very basic place to start. You can see Trump, I stand for this, 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 and this. Yep. You can see Kamala, I stand for this, 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 and this. And then another fun thing that I got into when I was in college is I learned about the little box where it's like four quadrants. Okay,
the political compass.
It's where what Kamala says about Kamala and what Kamala says about Trump, and then you have what Trump says about Trump and what Trump says about Kamala. So what do they say about themselves? And what do they say about their opponent? Okay. And it fits into four little boxes.
I've never seen that one.
Oh yeah, can you visualize what I'm saying though? It's like,
absolutely.
Trump, Kamala here, Trump, Kamala here. So that was a fun one in college because then you can look at what is being said about Kamala. What does Kamala say about Kamala, and then what does Trump say about Kamala? And you can then the inverse with exactly. So
okay.
I think that's a fun place to an easy place to start maybe. Yeah. So yeah, what do you think about that?
I think that's good. I think you need to keep it something basic like that, streamline, because it feels really intimidating when you're trying to get into politics, and it just never fucking ends. You listen to some of these debaters and these internet talkers. It's like some of these guys, they just dedicate their lives to studying past, history and
they know everything about every plank of the platform.
Right. They literally know everything, and like that, I feel like can push a lot of people away from even beginning to it. I think you have a great point. Just like keep it simple. See what each candidate says. Do you like their policies?
Mm-hmm.
And you actually have to give it some thought. Actually give abortion some thought. If you think women should be allowed to vote, give it a little bit of thought. And see if that candidate supports the same side as you do or not.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, we all have heard the term single issue voter. People vote because one thing is very important to them.
Yep.
I think those people are kind of on the kindergarten level of getting into politics, because that's another good place to start.
It is
when you're looking at both platforms. One of those planks, imagine literally a physical platform that has planks on it. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's where the term platform comes from.
Yep.
So Trump will have planks in his platform, and Kamala will have planks. And inevitably one or maybe two, maybe none, but hopefully one or two of those planks really speak to you. Like, I really care about this plank that's abortion. I really care about the plank that's economy. So instead of looking at the whole platform, you can just start with one plank. And just dive into that
and
one
then
plank.
Not only that, if you are a single issue voter and you vote for that person because they said, hey, I'm going to reinstate Roe v. Wade or reinstate the abortion ban, see if they actually do it if they get elected.
Exactly. Yep.
Keep
promises
keep tabs
kept or promises broken.
Yeah. Keep tabs on that individual too.
Mm-hmm.
On there. No, that was good. I think we can get in that over a day. Let's spend this last 20 minutes this year. Is there anything you want to talk about? I got stuff over here written down.
Well, I just wanted to add a little, just a little bit to what he was just talking about. Mm-hmm. When you're taking on particular policies, and there's if you personally have a lack of conviction one way or the other, that's an indication that you need to take on the more fundamental areas of, general knowledge, that being philosophy. You need to find a grip. You need to find a ledge to help pull yourself up by, and that's usually trying to find a starting point in the world of philosophy that can help give you some guidance to arriving at the conclusions concerning these different policy points, because
it might be the inverse. Maybe exploring the issues will help you find your philosophy.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't matter which end you start on, but when you don't have, your reflections don't deliver any kind of a satisfying conclusion on a particular point. That usually comes from a lack of time spent reflecting through a lens that developed in a philosophical sense. And that's where that whole knowledge only comes from experience stuff is really important, because if that's not possible, then all we can do is just continue milling around in a box and collecting data points and making assertions about stuff. There can't actually be any solid determinations about the right or the wrong of anything.
Right.
So
what did you have to say about Israel? We can get into that for the last 10 minutes here, and then we can just do for like a final closing.
Maybe a more interesting thing to wrap up on is, like, I don't know if you guys have seen, I've seen a lot more anger and hate on social media and just like in the media in general, like people talking about civil war and stuff, Yeah.
Well, people think if Trump's going to win, they think it's going to be a civil war.
Right. So here's an interesting thing, right? Back when Trump was running for election in 2016, like someone in my family brought up that someone in the government is gonna stop him from becoming, the nominee or being elected, period. And this is where this family member and I disagreed on. And I said, I would be the first one to stand up and say, oh, hell no. Even if I disagree with every single thing that candidate says, that's one of the most important, maybe the most important thing about our society is that you can't suppress the other side or any side. Frankly, we shouldn't have two sides. We should have many sides. But how do you guys feel about that? Phil, let's say Kamala wins and somehow turns into this crazy dictator and starts rounding up political opponents and going on Facebook and saying, I know that Phil said this, and this. I'm going to go find him and I'm going to go lock him up. I can tell you that I would be the first one to say, I disagree with most of the things that Phil believes, but I'm going to be the first one to get in front of you and say, oh, no, you don't. Like, he has a right to his voice, his opinion, and you cannot lock up political opponents just because they disagree with your your view. Do you feel the same way?
Absolutely.
You do. That's encouraging to hear, because a lot of people talk about, civil war, and it's like, are we ready to just start killing each other? It's like, right. I hope not. Yeah. I don't feel that way.
Would you agree that there's a mechanism similar to what you're talking about that's already in force on the internet?
What do you mean?
Well,
say more.
If you're not in line with, it's just like all of the word exclusions. How many words are there now that you're not like, if you're trying to monetize a video on YouTube that you can't, there's all these words you can't say now. But the weird thing is that it's basically has nothing to do with swear words. Yeah. It's all like this, all this weird touchy feely, like, don't break someone's mental health. Well, don't offend somebody based on politically grouped gimme groups.
Is that why you're saying AB and not a
yeah.
Okay, because
I shouldn't have said the C word either. You're supposed to call it coof. Was it Coof 19?
What is this? Oh, okay. So
that happened 4 years ago.
Shoot. Sorry, guys. You're gonna have to edit. You're gonna have to edit a lot of things that I said. Shoot.
They're still ignoring us.
Sorry.
So
I thought that was interesting that you were saying AB, but now the light bulb's going off because you're doing it because we're putting this on social media. Yeah. Therefore, you can't say unalived. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, I know that one is
other examples?
grape.
Unalive. Oh yeah, grape.
The C one, no,
Corn. Watching corn.
Corn.
I've uploaded videos on YouTube where like the C word wasn't even in the title or anything. Like didn't put it in the title. They have some way with the transcript or whatever it is, and then
They put a warning on it. Didn't they?
I've gotten warnings, and like they'll put it when you're actually watching the video. It'll be like it'll just have some links like here, get them like actual facts, like most of information about the C word from like these websites right here.
Yeah.
So they know, like, yeah, when you upload a video, it scans for some shit and it'll let you know. I think I've actually had some videos taken down from it.
Yeah, the funneling to authoritative sources is it is one of the worst mechanisms that's ever been.
Do you think Alex Jones, do you think he should have like lost his YouTube channel? Did you I know you know of Alex Jones.
Yes.
You know he lost his like entire YouTube channel completely. Do you think he should still have have had the right to say whatever he wanted?
So I think so. Well, here's the thing,
because this is kind of what you're talking about. It ties into that.
It does. It does. And what Phil is talking about is these like buzzwords where I imagine it's just AI or computer programs that are screening YouTube videos and going, oh, this word was just said in this YouTube video. Now YouTube, admin go review this and see what was said and blah blah blah.
Yep.
So when people
said that, I think the bot just bans people.
No, it has to do with if you're making crazy claims. I think we can agree that there is an epidemic of disinformation and misinformation, right? There's all kinds of wrong information just all over the place, right? Yep. So maybe this isn't the right way to go about it, which is what YouTube and other social media platforms are doing. Maybe it's not the right way to go about it, but that's what they're trying to combat is misinformation and disinformation, right? Misinformation
at the same time promoting.
Let Chad finish here.
Misinformation is when you are basically accidentally or misconstruing like facts, right? Disinformation is when you're intentionally trying to make it like trying to muddy the waters to make it impossible to understand, like disinformation, misinformation. What Alex Jones was doing was a classic example of the worst kind of disinformation. He's spreading crazy conspiracy theories that will be damaging to society. Now, should he still have the right to say whatever he wants? Absolutely. But he's on a privately owned platform, YouTube, whatever, social media. Can they ban him from their platform? Yes, they can.
Not according to their actual side. Well, bake the cake, bitch, right?
Well, if they stand for like true freedom of speech, then no, you shouldn't ban or censor anything. Well, you should put everything on the internet. But it's a private company that has, community guidelines and whatnot, and that helps their investors or whatever, like invest more money in them because it's a healthy thing for democracy and whatnot. But is Alex Jones barred from going out on the street corner and saying whatever he wants? No, he can still say whatever he wants. He just can't use their platform to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just today. Great example. The chicken head army of the mainstream media is all pushing this this misquote of Trump saying that he actually said that Liz Cheney should be executed.
Oh, put in front of a firing squad?
Well, he didn't even say she should be. He said he's dealing with the whole chicken hawk issue. You have all these people in authority who are willing to send people into military conflict who will never be exposed to it and have never been exposed to it. And he said, well, how would your decision making be changed if you were the one that was actually facing 9 rifles pointed at your face?
Right.
He didn't say she should be executed. What he's saying is these people should actually reflect on their situation and whether or not they should actually be, so gung-ho to carry out these actions.
Right. Or would you be willing to send your kids out there?
And they turned it into Trump said she should be executed. It's the most ridiculous, and yet there it is being amplified on every platform you can imagine. And the other thing with the whole, they could have made a very obvious bright line distinction for the YouTubes and the other video, video streaming services? Publisher or public commons? Now, what these people want to do is they want to be able to act like a publisher and still promote themselves as a public common. If you're the commons, you don't get to cut people off at the knees, right? You give everybody the same ample opportunity to promote whatever it is they want to say there. Now, if you're a publisher, now you can decide who gets to say what on your platform. But they don't want to take on that liability, because if they do, then they have to be subject to being called to the mat on what the people they allow to say things for what they say. So then, if they had made this clear, YouTube would not be acting in conjunction with the alphabet networks to actually run that headline over and over again that Trump said he wants Liz Cheney to be executed.
So what he said was, she's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her. Okay, let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't say we need to execute Liz Cheney.
No.
But what he's doing here is a common thing that Trump does, where it's another example of like dog whistling. Like,
well, it's a hyperbolic hypothetical.
Right.
But it grabs people's attention and it makes you think, unless you don't actually go to see what he actually said and you just absorb the headline and call him a fascist and say that he wants to kill people.
It's still an insane, stupid thing to say. It doesn't even serve his purpose. It's a stupid thing for him to say. It does illustrate that he is an angry, violent person. Like, why even say that? Like, that's insane. Why say let's put her with a rifle sitting there with 9 barrels shooting at her. Let's see how she feels about it, when the guns are trained on her face.
Well, you said he was making the point about
her political opponent.
Her wanting to go to war, though.
Right.
That's what he was saying.
Right.
Yeah, it's a prompt to reconsider.
So, it's a tricky little dog whistle where it's
I don't
saying,
understand how does that make somebody violent?
Why did he say 9 barrels? That's a firing squad. Like, he's hinting, it's wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
You know what? I'll bet.
I'll
bet that he said that specifically just to prove how the response would be completely misconstruing the intent of his words. He does it all the time.
The intent of his words is
that Liz Cheney is a war hawk. That's his intention.
If that's all he wanted to say, that's all he needed to say. But
that doesn't get the point across as well.
Anywho, we were talking about
just like censorship, basically.
Civil war, censorship,
Civil war.
Yeah. So, and you were saying people think that if Trump gets reelected,
there'll be a civil war.
If he doesn't get reelected, or if he does get reelected, either way.
Both.
Either way. Yeah. Either way. Do you think that's true? Do you think we're headed for a civil war?
No.
Do you think that's true?
Absolutely not. I think people are way too distracted for that, even if they had the energy for it.
Mm.
I think that that could be drummed up and the beginning of it executed very quickly. I will say one thing: if I had to give odds, I would say that it's much more likely if Trump wins
that there will be a civil war.
Yeah, the one thing that I notice is that when you're dealing in these back and forths, like the Democrats, this cycle, they made it too easy. They made it way too easy. And I just
made too easy.
I made a quick little for Trump to respond while looking like the good guy. And I know it depends on your perspective, but I'm just going to go over this list. Obviously, the recent one, Biden with the garbage comment. Okay, Mark Cuban with the strong, intelligent women comment. Just stupid. Obama with the young black men. Obama with the young black men comments. Kamala with her pretending to be black, pretending to be middle class, telling Christians they should leave her rally and go to the little one down the street. Walls with his whole white guys thing. Emhoff with the nannies. Well, that was just a joke.
Well, I don't have a list over here, but Trump's list would be way longer and way worse.
The continuous flow of calls, to call him a Nazi and a fascist. Now, which all-encompassing comments by Trump do you
getting his whole crowd
like this,
getting his whole crowd to chant "lock her up"?
You didn't. Nobody needed
That's
to prompt
pretty nuts.
them. Nobody. Those crowds did that on
because
their
like
own.
you just said, they're
because
drumming
she's a
it up.
criminal.
They're drumming it up. And I think if Trump loses, it's much more likely to see violence.
No,
because everyone's going to go, oh, it was a rigged election. The Democrats are rigging everything.
we already know that 2020 was
our country back.
Nobody did anything in 2020 other than protest outside the Capitol and then enter as all of the FBI plants opened the doors and ushered people in. That whole thing is so ridiculous. But my whole point with this list here was that each one of these made negative connotations about huge swaths of the electorate, and they gave Trump the opportunity to simply make fun of them as individuals for doing it. I mean, Kamala is just such an easy target. She's an absolute frickin' nitwit. The garbage comment, and he pulls up in a garbage truck. That was just, you couldn't make it any easier.
I mean, Biden's garbage comment came right after that comedian at the Madison Square Garden thing talking about Puerto Rico as a floating pile of trash. So I mean, like I was saying, I don't have a list over here, but if I did, it would be much longer and much worse. So what's the point you're trying to make here is that the Democrats are making it easy for Trump to attack them as being the bad guys because they're saying mean things
because they keep demonizing entire groups of people.
Yeah, that's what Trump does too.
When?
Like for the entire his entire life, bro.
Dude, since he started on the campaign trail the first time around, he's been going after the top of the pyramid. He's constantly pointing at the things they do that make it difficult for everyone. And that's part of that's what's resonated with people. That's why he's as popular as he is.
Because he's a bully and he likes to name
because he points out all of their absolutely contrary actions. They make claims to want to, help people at the bottom. And what do? They feed them endless welfare, and the situation never gets any better. It's the same thing with these conflicts overseas. The Israel and Ukraine, neither one of those would have occurred if he had won re-election.
Chad, do you think Trump had the 2020 election stolen from him? Or did he lose fair and square?
He lost fair and square.
You don't think any of that was suspect in any way?
Oh, there's suspect stuff in every election.
And do you believe that any of it was actually answered for?
Do I think that there was things that were done in the election that prevented him from winning? Absolutely not. He's taken it to court 60 something times, and was shot down every single time because he has no evidence.
No, because he's playing on their field.
He filed like 60. It's either 60 something or 90 something lawsuits about the 2020 election. All of them were dismissed because he has no evidence, nothing.
Every court filing just outright denied by his opponents in courtrooms.
These are judges that Trump appointed.
Answered a single issue. Not one.
He got dismissed by Trump by his own appointees. I mean, he's a crock of shit. Total crock of shit.
I got I have one particular example. You know that the setups for all of the mail-in boxes and the early voting, there were a lot of actions taken in states without any legislative approval whatsoever. Those adjustments to process weren't legal. They just did it anyway.
Are you referencing like Dinesh D'Souza's exposing documentary The Mule?
It might be in there.
All those voting boxes were just full of fake votes.
I don't need a Dinesh D'Souza documentary to know that the setting up of these ballot boxes, the increase in the early voting periods, there were so many of these enactments by the mostly in the ones that were important were the ones that took place in those states with the narrow margins. Not a single one of those was ever answered for. Nobody's ever suffered a penalty. Nobody ever lost a job. And yet these illegal processes are what led to Biden's victory.
See, there's so much disinformation and misinformation out there that we've got average people like yourself that believe that our election system is a complete scam, that it's all a setup, and that Trump actually won the election. More people voted for him.
He did.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
And
I'm sorry.
I got one other thing to point out.
There would have to be like tens of thousands of people in on this conspiracy.
No,
like you're not Truman in the Truman Show where like everyone's conspiring against you.
Doesn't require tens of thousands of people in a conspiracy.
Yes, it would.
It just requires people who had a purpose doing things that they know weren't legitimate, and then they're betters, they're the people who are actually supposed to be holding them accountable, going along with it, and then the people in the courts denying to actually address the issue when Trump brought suit. It's 3 layers of absolute fucking bullshit.
How do you explain every single lawsuit that he filed getting dismissed out of hand?
By his opponents.
His own appointees there too, Phil. It's not if it was his own, if it was just his opponents, you would imagine that it would be around 50%, right? If the population is generally 50% Republican, generally 50% Democrat, then half of his lawsuits would have been gone. Yep, let's hear it, let's do it, let's take this to court, and let's overturn the election in your favor. But zero.
Trump doesn't have any Republican opponents?
Of them. Why? Because there was no evidence. He had no evidence of anything.
Oh my God!
It's just conspiracy theories, misinformation, and disinformation.
The pillow
it's a crock of shit.
The pillow guy presented an encyclopedia of evidence as to all this voting machine.
My pillow guy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Dude, he gathered together numerous people.
That'll probably be your next candidate in 2028.
Oh, and he'll probably win.
How can you fix a problem when
at this rate? Yeah, he probably will.
How can you fix a problem when one side denies that their actual activity even took place? I mean, you can't possibly believe that all of the fiddling around with the early vote, and it was in the midst of COVID. That was very convenient. They took advantage of everybody's worry about that during that period to do things they weren't allowed to do. And nobody ever answered for any of it. And the other thing I wanted to bring out was, have you seen the polling, the polling averages charts? And they go back to before the debate with Biden. And you come up there, Biden's number is almost falling off the bottom of the chart. And then all of a sudden, there's an interruption and there's a blank space where there's nothing. And then all of a sudden, Kamala's on top of Trump magically. It's almost like they stopped counting the votes. And then in the morning, Biden was ahead. Don't even tell me that you'd think that was legit.
It's all a conspiracy.
Dude, videotape of people taking stacks of ballots, coming out of the machine and going back and putting them in the machine again.
Phil, all of this stuff.
You don't think that's evidence of something going wrong?
Oh my God. All of this stuff has been looked at again and again by all kinds of debunkers, legal and
debunkers. Yeah. Oh my God. I always trust the debunkers.
Well, the same group with the fact checkers.
Jesus Christ, dude. Did you ever see the tape?
If this is all a big scam, why even vote? Do you vote?
I didn't in the past 2 elections.
Are you going to vote this one?
Yes, I am.
Well, why bother?
Because I feel like there's actually a chance to turn Minnesota red.
There's your hypocrisy right there. If it's all a sham, why vote?
Also, okay, so now it's hypocrisy if I vote.
Is it not? Based on your argument just there, saying that this is all, your vote doesn't count. It doesn't matter. It's all going to be the Democrats are going to be double counted, and then the Republicans are going to be thrown in the garbage. Why go vote?
I'm going to vote because I want Trump to win.
So your vote, the counting the ballots is legitimate? We're going to have
probably
an accurate
not.
count? Okay.
Probably not, but you want to do everything you can to make sure Trump does win. Yeah, and the best thing for you to do is just to go out and vote for the guy.
Whether or not I vote has absolutely nothing to do with the substance of what I'm saying.
Yes, it does. It has everything to do with it. You're saying you're saying the vote, the counting the ballots is rigged. Are you not saying that?
Okay. If I murder 1,000 people and then tell you that murder is wrong, is murder not wrong because I killed all those people?
No, murder's still wrong.
Okay, well then it's not.
So then are you going to answer
whether or
my
not
question?
I vote does not have anything to do with the substance of what I'm saying.
You're saying that the system is rigged, but you're still going to go vote.
Oh, good Lord. Yes. Is that those both can't be true?
Sure, but I don't see how you can hold both of those concepts in your head to be true at the same time.
I'm irritated as shit, dude. I don't want to go and vote. Do you think I enjoy participating in this stupid shit?
I think you do.
I mean, the idea that there's even any debate whatsoever between these two people, is amazing to me.
That we can agree on. It's insane that there's even a debate between these two people. One is the obviously correct choice. One is a monster.
She cannot honestly represent herself in any aspect.
So let's say Kamala wins. What's going to happen? Let's say Kamala wins and there's no violence. What is going to be the
well, there won't be any violence if Kamala wins.
The doom and gloom of her administration.
That. Well, the border will continue to be left wide open. They'll continue to lie about that. The billions after billions after billions will continue to go to Ukraine. We know that. The trade relationships with China will continue to deteriorate our own ability to produce. The policies on domestic energy production will continue to be self-destructive. The taxes, there is not a tax. A Democrat has never reduced a tax in my entire life. This idea that they're going to, what they do is they grant refundable tax credits to people who don't pay any taxes. That's not a tax cut. That's more welfare. There will be absolutely no drawing back of the DEI rainbow catastrophe that's currently taking place. The drive for the nationwide endorsement of abortion up to the day of birth, that campaign will continue. I'm sure that we'll see more and more pressure to continue, funding bloated public schools and their henchmen union people. They haven't done a good job since before I was born. You'll probably continue to see the infiltration of the military by incompetent people who have no business being in it. God, what else? I mean, it just goes on and on. There isn't a single thing that I've heard out of her campaign that's encouraging to me at all on anything.
Okay, then Chad has heard some encouraging things. So it is 3 o'clock.
I hope you can find one for me. Let's go. I'd love to hear one.
Okay, let's just, we can do, you're voting for Kamala. Tell us why. Last few minutes. Phil, you kind of always said why you're voting for Trump. If you want to do
you got the last word here.
Okay, last word to Chad.
You got the last word.
Well, I'm going to vote. I'm going to
respond to Phil. Too.
Well, I disagree with all of the things that you just said, but it also doesn't sound like anything that you just said says that we're not going to have a country anymore. So the left is saying that the democracy is on the line, and then Trump is saying that we're not going to have a country anymore, and there's going to be a bloodbath, blah blah blah, all that fun stuff. I'm voting, and I think this is the most people are tying back to another point we made much earlier, is that this is not going to be a vote for someone that you really, really, really like. Yep. This is a vote against the person that you don't like. So for me, I don't know enough about Kamala yet, but I'm very confident that she's a decent person, an honest person, and she's not going to run the country into the ground. And if there are things going on that require immediate action from the federal government, that she's going to look to the people around her, the smart people around her. She's going to surround herself with smart people and make the right decision for the country. Versus, on the other hand, Donald Trump will do whatever he thinks is best. He's not going to listen to anybody. If anyone disagrees with him, he's going to say, nope, you're a schmuck, you're an idiot. He's going to make a funny little nickname for him and then fire him. I think he's an insane narcissist, pathological liar. And I don't think that Kamala is a bad person. I think that Trump is a bad person. And I think the other team can do much better. So I hope he loses. And I hope the Republican Party, recenters itself and finds a good candidate to rally around. And maybe the Republican Party can be the first one since Barack Obama to really put someone forward that people want to vote for rather than just voting against the other side.
Well, we should come back after the election's over, revisit everything. Dude, Chad, thanks for coming, brother. It's been a while, dude.
It's been it's been a while. It's been fun.
Now that you have some more free time, let's try get a few more in under the belt before you get super busy again.
We should.
It doesn't have to be about politics. It can be about anything. We'll figure it out. Yeah. Professor Phil, love you, brother. As always, love you too, Chad. And I choose Doug Life. Doug Life chose me.